All right, so Guild Wars 3 is confirmed, it's real, and we're all very excited, and I kind of had a handful of different emotions, and I wanted to let them simmer, wanted to find out more information, see what we could see, and then make an honest opinion about it, an honest kind of like reaction to what I'm feeling about Guild Wars 3 and its potential. Now, this video isn't necessarily to overhype Guild Wars 3, we don't really know much of anything, and it's also not really set up to doom it, it's more so to take a breath and take a look at it. And honestly, take a look at it from the point of view of a working dad. A brand new MMO in your franchise that you very, very much love and you're excited for kind of sounds a bit overwhelming. And I wanted to look at it from that point of view. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, let's go ahead and talk about it. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Guild Wars Reforged, Guild Wars 2, and now Guild Wars 3 content. All right, so before I give you my full-on take, let's go ahead and talk about what is actually confirmed and what we know right now. That's a good way to set up the foundation of the arguments of pros and cons and kind of where I'm at. So Guild Wars 3 is real. It is an MMO of sorts, set in the ancient Ore. So this is going to be well before Guild Wars 1 or previously Guild Wars 1 or Guild Wars Reforged. And one of the bigger announcements for this is that this is the first cross-platform capable game that ArenaNet is putting out. From the start, they're going to be also on PS5 for Guild Wars 3. And that basically means that the population size grows from there. On top of that, the very first beta, which I believe is a closed beta, isn't even coming until later in 2027. So we got like 15 months, 16 months before we really get to see in-depth stuff that isn't just what ArenaNet is showing us. But the part that really surprised me is that Guild Wars 2 is going to continue on its own path and run new expansions at the same time that Guild Wars 3 is being developed and we'll say released into public. And they will continue to release expansions for both games and continue working on both games live, 2 MMOs at the same time. And of course, my very first thought initially was, man, that's really ambitious. That's cool. It's ambitious though. I know studios that just struggle to have one MMO, and now we're going to toss another one into the mix. And let me say, we'll come back to that. Let's go ahead and talk about the good news around this announcement and what's coming up. All right, so the first big thing is kind of like a groaning point depending on the type of player you are and the type of game time that you have. The idea of the beta being about 15 to 16 months from now, it sounds like it's a big problem if you have like 40 plus hours to put into the game per week. There's a lot of time between those. Someone like me and possibly someone like you who only has a couple of hours a week, that's awesome. That's fine. I got plenty of time. There's plenty of things that I can work on in Guild Wars 2, plenty of things that I can do outside of it without having to feel like I'm waiting for something. Even if you're a new player and you're starting out now, you still got plenty of time to knock out a whole bunch of stuff casually, kind of at your own pace. And honestly, this actually also would be a wonderful time for you to check out Guild Wars Reforged. They just announced their mobile version. I believe that's up and live and that's out, and that's great. Like, you can play and it's kind of like, actually, I think that is cross-compatible. I think it's all the same. It's not 2 individual servers, which is awesome. But the idea of the long kind of like runway, I guess is the best way to put it, is that ArenaNet is kind of like learning. And I think that's also part of the reason why they want to have this long amount of time leading up to the actual closed beta, the very first beta, is because I feel like they're doing it for like timing and testing and making sure that they've marked all the boxes that they want to do. You think about it, a lot of games end up getting rushed and they might be okay, but there's also probably a lot of glaring problems when they're pushed out too early. I kind of view it in the sense that Guild Wars 3 with that long window, they're going to mess around with some stuff. They're going to be able to figure it out. And that's the first beta. That's beta. That's not even like the full release. That is just, hey, let's see what we can do up until that point and we'll go from there. I like that. Now, this is something that has me very excited about it, about Guild Wars 3, in the sense that it feels like it was kind of catered to me, truth be told. And that's the idea that ArenaNet wants to make Guild Wars 3 feel meaningful and impactful for people who only have about 30 minutes a day. That is my alley. That is exactly for me, 100%. And I know that there's going to be some players who are like, oh, well, there's not enough to do. There's always those types of players who there's not enough to do. There's, not enough content and all that. I get that, but they're really looking at the casual player base and allowing them to leave the game and then come back. I mean, that's the reason that Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars Reforged have lasted this long, is because they kind of have like an evergreen MMO, really. But it also does kind of beg the question, like, what kind of MMO really works with only 30 minutes of playtime a day? I mean, Guild Wars 2 does do a very good job at it, but I mean, if you're only playing, a half hour a day, an hour a day, maybe, like, there's still a lot of content and you're going to be on that for a very long time. It's harder to hold interest in that regard. So I'm genuinely curious what they mean when they say it's like meaningful for 30 minutes of game time. I like the casual play. I like that idea, but is it just going to be artificially grindy? However, also looking on the other side, there is no sub and there is no battle pass. So essentially you purchase the game, it's going to be buy to play, and then you can pick at it whenever you want. I mean, I just unlocked a Gen 2 Legendary Hammer that's been out since like what, 2014 or like whenever Heart of Thorns came out. Like, I mean, there is that kind of idea that you can constantly work on something at your own pace and at your own time. Now, this is where I really want to be honest and transparent about what Guild Wars 2 is and ArenaNet's ambitious problems. This is kind of like the real concerns that I genuinely have. So first, I am genuinely concerned, and I will say genuinely concerned, about the bandwidth of MMOs and how much time and effort they take, and then trying to do two of them at once. Again, I say it's ambitious. I do. Really, playing two live MMOs at the same time is also a tough, we'll say, push for players like me who are casual, or heaven forbid, someone who's only just starting Guild Wars 2 now. I mean, if they are playing Guild Wars 2 and they're getting into it and there's so much content for them to do, that if they're trying to play that in Guild Wars 3, that poses a genuine problem. Like, if they don't have more than that 30 minutes, they have to pick and choose which one that they want to play. And I kind of look at it in the same regard. It's like, I do think that Guild Wars 3 will have, we'll say, different systems and different kind of play as compared to Guild Wars 2. I mean, with them coming to PS5 and that cross-platform kind of capability, I do think that some of the systems will get streamlined. I do. And it will be easier to pick up and play. But imagine having to juggle or choose every night which game you want to play. You only have a half hour. You only have an hour, each time. And it's like, what game am I going to devote my evening to? And that to me poses kind of a bigger problem. Now, I will say, and I have said this in previous videos, I do think, this isn't confirmed, I do think that they would kind of stagger the launches and stagger the content that's coming out, because there's a team working for each one of the Guild Wars games, that every time that there's something new, it is staggered with something that's going to come out later for the next game. So Guild Wars 2 will have their next expansion release. Cool, yay! And then 2 months later, they'll have the Guild Wars 3, new update or a new expansion or something along those regards. They're hypothetically thinking. A month after that, they'll have a Guild Wars Reforged update. And it's kind of like there's always something going on in the web of Guild Wars, but not necessarily all at once. So you can pick up and play whenever you want, and also horizontal progression. So it's not like you ever really fall behind. I say all that, but that is also coming from someone who has already put quite a bit of hours into Guild Wars 2, and juggling two MMOs and a studio juggling two MMOs. I don't know. I'm still of the mindset that it's like, I have a lot of faith in ArenaNet and what they do, but I still want to see it before I can fully believe it. Another thing that and maybe I look at this like from a personal point of view and, kind of like background of like my career, like when I tell someone or I tell a group of people something, I try to be as detailed as possible that I can be at that given time. I don't really like how kind of vague everything is being about Guild Wars 3. Like, oh, we're going to have a lot of systems. It's going to, respect players' times and things like that. And I understand we're still within the first month, and I'm sure that this will change as we go through. But it does get kind of frustrating. It's like, oh my goodness, Guild Wars 3 is miles away and we'll eventually get there. but it does end up causing like a mild annoyance, I'll say, in that regard of not necessarily having, you know, good concrete detail to see their direction, to see where they're going. And again, I say this is just me being impatient. I know that in the future that they will release more videos and talk about it and, you know, gameplay stuff. I know that that's coming eventually, and maybe it's just I'm very excited and very impatient. But I'm sure that there's also a lot of people who probably share that same sentiment. And something else that I've kind of had a bit of a hot take on, and I've had to kind of like tone my expectations, is the idea that they are kind of removing the gear needs and then the inventory management problem. If you've never played Guild Wars 2, inventory management is... it is hard. It's like half the game. Like, you get a lot of inventory items, you get a lot of gear, you get a whole bunch of stuff that's constantly poured over onto you. And lots of it, most of it is, you know, useless. You sell it, you scrap it, you do how you salvage it, you do those types of things. And Guild Wars 3 is looking to move away from that. They're saying, we're not worrying about inventory management. That isn't a part of the game, which it's also kind of like, well, then how do you have, you know, your gear? Like, how do you have your progression system? Even if it's horizontal progression, there is a little bit of vertical, right? Like, even if we have Guild Wars 2 to compare, you have exotic gear, you have ascended gear, then you have legendary gear, you have the 1, 2, 3. There is a progression, albeit the stats really aren't all that massive, but there is a kind of treadmill that you work on to get to the top. So I'm concerned, I'm confused of what they mean with that, because that isn't traditional to what we have seen, given that ArenaNet has also said that Guild Wars 3 is going to be something new. It's going to be a brand new take on the MMO worlds. So I can kind of see that. Like the you know, like the kind of like the working dad idea, like, great, I love it. Like, there's less of a grind for me to do, but then it's also like the MMO veteran part of me. It's like, I really liked the gear progression that I had back when I could sit down and play for hours on end. So I'm kind of torn on it, you know, like I'm kind of torn of the direction. I'll have to see it. We'll have to see it, I think, is where I'm going with this. All right, so my honest verdict, working dad's verdict, I guess is kind of what I'm building this up off to, is that we have a long window before Guild Wars 3's beta is even here. The beta is here. We have a lot of time to let ArenaNet do what they need to do to set up appropriately to execute the way that we're hoping that they will be. I also am of that mindset, let's go ahead and be cautiously excited to see what Guild Wars 3 will go ahead and be. And also, this is a great time to try Guild Wars 2. It's a great time to try Guild Wars Reforged. Like, I mean, they are still in this realm, and they are so effective, we'll say, at what they do for so long, because they have been up and running for so long. I mean, Guild Wars 2 has a mess of content. Guild Wars Reforged is like $20 and you can get like 100 hours worth of gameplay. I mean, there's a lot of things to be very excited about that aren't necessarily Guild Wars 3, but I don't want you to not be hyped, but I also want you to be kind of like cautiously aware, we'll say. Honestly, if Guild Wars 3 actually delivers on that 30-minute mark, like 30 minutes of meaningful gameplay and meaningful progress, then I'm all in. I could find 30 minutes here and there and still probably figure out a way to balance with Guild Wars 2 with their expansions and such. And honestly, if that's the case and we are able to get that nice little tight window, that's a win. That's a win for me. That's a win for casuals. That's a win for, working dads out there. It's fantastic. But I'm also not saying that this game is already, the best MMORPG out in the world right now. Let's be cautiously excited, and then let's see if they can earn that hype as we get more information and as we get closer. That's it. That's my honest take. We still got a crap load of Guild Wars 2 content to play. There's a whole bunch of other updates that are going to happen. I'm going to cover a lot of them here on this channel, so please make sure to like the video, subscribe, so that you don't miss out. If you guys do want to see whether or not you should play Guild Wars 2 right now, or wait for Guild Wars 3 if you are a new player, you can click this video here. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.